Hey, 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 my Magic Maker friends. Welcome to a special episode today because today I am going to be met on stage by one of my friends and an expert that you are going to be so happy that you got to meet today if you don't already know her. So take a breath with me now because here we are in episode 2 of the season. This season that is all about you, the evolution of you. We are in our air element season, and the air element is teaching us change is happening all the time. It is happening all the time. And the air is also giving you so much information. It's all about this communication and change, which leads to the invitation to change the story you're telling about yourself or that you believe about yourself. This is the bigger invitation for season 3 of You Are the Magic, and we've only just begun. It's episode 2, and today, as shared, I'm going to be met by Tosca Di Matteo. Tosca is many things, but one of the things that Tosca is an expert in inner critics. So Tosca's an author, a speaker, a transformational coach, a Wonder Woman, and one of my favorite things that stands out always when I connect and work and play with Tosca is the truth. Tosca is excellent at sharing the truth because it's generous, and it's also in its generosity able to unlock some things that are either in your mind or your heart. This has been my experience, and I know it's the experience of others who connect with Tosca. So I'm so excited that she is here today with me to unlock what is this truth about your inner critic and how is that messing with your magical mindset. It's our next step in the evolution of you story. So let's begin now, and I'm going to invite Tosca up onto the stage with me. Hey, hey, Tosca.
Hello, hello.
Welcome. Settle in, my friend. Now, Tosca, I want to tell you something that to me is absolutely delightful. You are the first woman to join me live for the podcast. I know, because last season, if you've been following along at home, I was met by Tammy and Haley, but due to time zone differences, we pre-recorded those episodes. So this is officially the first You Are the Magic. I've got a guest with me live. Hello, look at us being trailblazers again.
I love it.
Yeah. So everyone, the women who I invite onto the You Are the Magic stage with me are women who I have identified as somebody who is in their big life and making the magic happen. So Tosca, that's you in your big life, making the magic happen. So let's begin with you sharing with us what is the magic that you create and sprinkle in the world.
Well, first, thank you for having me and for your beautiful introduction. And I just love that you see me as a truth teller, because what I do is I help people see the truth of what needs to be resolved, what needs to be kind of worked through and moved in terms of their own obstacles that are getting in the way of finding true fulfillment, true contentment, true inner peace. And it's often in the realm of frustration and feeling stuck in their career. That's usually the way in that I do that truth telling and holding space for people to really deal with unresolved history and old narratives that are no longer serving them.
Mm-hmm. And so, my friends, can you already see how this work is a beautiful match to the evolution of you and the story that you tell about yourself, which is the playground of today. So, Tosca, I'm so pleased that you're here because, yes, you do all of that. And we're going to do that together in this episode so that we can all get jiggy with where we're at, because we're talking about the truth around our inner critics. can you share with us, how do you describe or define inner critic? Because I want to just start there, because I know for me, sometimes I'm like, is that the inner critic, or is that my inner child, or is that a mindset thing? And I think it can all get a little bit too much in actually defining, what am I working on right now? Because I want us to be able to be clear on, we're working on our beautiful magical lives, and today it's the truth about this inner critic. So what is the inner critic?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. And there are a lot of legs to this. So I will keep it to like the simple core and just know that it's more expansive than probably what I'm going to describe, just to keep it in that clear, tight description kind of that you're looking for.
Mm.
And so I'll just start by saying our inner critic narratives, our messages, are the things that we say to ourselves, which may be conscious, may be unconscious, that are not serving the highest good of ourselves or those that we're around. So it can also be a feeling and not necessarily a thing here in your head. When it does come through in terms of messages that you're telling yourself, it can sound like you shouldn't have the fries, you're trying to lose weight, you shouldn't do that. The word should is a great indication that your inner critic is alive and well in your body.
Mhm.
The inner critic narrative also often starts with you need to go to the gym, or you need to be on social media 3 times a day if you want your business to be successful. It can also sound like limiting beliefs. You're never going to hit a 6-figure salary, like not going to happen. And the key word in that sentence where it's inner critic is it's very absolute and it's predictive. Like never is very like what do you mean? Like how do we know? And that's the biggest indication, is that your inner critic narrative is telling you a lie. And often our inner critic voice is filling in the gaps of a story that we actually don't know the truth of, because this is what we do as humans. We try to understand and comprehend the world. And so let's fill in the gaps. It's like, it might sound like, I haven't heard back from the interview in like 3 weeks. I didn't get the job. And you have actually no idea if that's the truth. You're just filling in the gap of explaining why you haven't heard from them in 3 weeks. That's an inner critic narrative. It's not serving you to think that way and to be in the energy of you got the rejection. So that's just, I'll pause there and see if that kind of makes sense.
Let me tell you what's making sense to me is how many opportunities the inner critic has to get in there.
Absolutely.
Those little things like what I choose to eat, how's my career or my business going, what's happening in my relationship. It's like an open playground for that inner critic, right? There's so many opportunities in our day. And I agree in that it can be that thought or the feeling, because I think sometimes we do spend a lot of time in, it's all about the mindset. But those who know me know that I am a big believer in, we feel it first and then we create the thought. And I think that there's some of that connection that I've learned from you, Tosca, around this inner critic work, around we get a certain feeling in our life about whether we're unsafe or whether we're allowed, or so many feelings. We've got so many feelings, people. We're human. And so, Tosca, to give us like a bigger playground with you, so as you're our guide today, can you share with us a story that's with you now, or you feel that you want to share, around an inner critic narrative that has impacted you or is impacting you?
Yeah, this is I have so many to choose from, right? So getting that question is like, what's popping up? And right now what's popping up is, growing up, I was around women that had very poor self-body image beliefs. Very much, if I looked like this, I would be happy type of messaging. And I received that messaging from my earliest memories of being able to absorb that kind of message. So actually, I as a young girl, and I had a pretty nice physique, but I wore tomboy clothes and I wore really baggy clothes. And looking back, I really thought that was, let me hide myself because I'm not happy with my body. And now I'm like, damn, I wish I wore some flattering things to show my curves, But so I just want to say, like, right, there's these planted seeds about how I looked at my body and my appearance in general. And then and I beat myself up a lot over appearance because also I was born with a visible birth defect. So there's the body, and then there's that physical appearance and scars that I can't change. And then at the age of 22, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And yeah, and this was on the heels of I had finished my last surgeries. I got my braces off at the age of 21. Like, I was ready for the next amazing phase of my life. I was ready to be happy, and so I remember the very first thoughts that I had and feelings that I had is like, what have I done to deserve this? Like, I blamed myself, or I looked at it like, somebody in the clouds is trying to tell me something about what I'm not doing, my not enoughness. And it was devastating because I was like, wait, I had to deal with this whole other thing my entire life. And now you're dropping this new thing, which is like, I love food. I have, Italian runs in my blood, like pasta, carbs. I mean, garlic bread, hello, right? And so for a long time, I would give myself stories about like, well, I guess I'm not supposed, and I guess I'm not supposed to enjoy this life. Like, I guess this is just supposed to be a hard life for me. And this sucks. And that really moved into the inner critic around being completely just harsh about everything I put into my body, because with diabetes, with type 1, there's certain things that you need to do for your health. And my inner critic it was another way to beat myself up. What I had to change in my lifestyle and my food was just another thing that my inner critic glommed onto to make me feel not enough, and to make me feel bad about myself. And that was years in the making, and years in the making of unraveling.
You know what I'm hearing in that, Tosca, is that the inner critic has this own narrative that also evolves. Like, in the beginning, you shared with the diagnosis of like, what have I done to cause this? And then next I heard, well, this then means I can't enjoy life. And then it goes to the restrictions again of what you're allowed, what you're not allowed, what control you have over your body. Like, there's more than one voice. It's not just like one line that the inner critic has that they repeat.
Right.
It's like a whole narrative that, over time can develop. So I'm sure that there's narratives. I'm sure that I have narratives, and other people have narratives, conscious or unconscious, that have been playing there for years. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those narratives can be dynamic. They can shift. And as we're doing the work, they can also become more sneaky in terms of how they get through to you. And sometimes you don't even realize, like, ooh, that was that was like the other day. kind of having a celebratory meal. I had a friend in town and we went, and like it's a place where, like, if I'm going to choose pasta, this is the place where I choose the pasta because it's homemade and it's all the things, and then the inner critic was coming in like, you really shouldn't do that. And it's like, but I can, and I know my limits, and I get to choose, and I get to be smart, and like the full version of myself knows how to manage it and where I want to make my choices. And so it was there, and it made me feel bad as I was looking at the menu. Maybe I should do the fish. My heart didn't want the fish. My heart wanted to celebrate. It wanted that pasta, like, so, it still shows up, and it's how quickly can you see it? How quickly can you stop allowing that message to repeat, and how quickly can you move into the come from place that you want to have?
Yeah, so it sounds to me like there is not only an unraveling of the inner critic, because I think the narrative are like tentacles, that can kind of like grip parts of our personalities or parts of our expression, and like untangling them. And am I right in saying that it's not only the untangling and the becoming aware, it's also maintaining this sense of, what is my relationship with this inner critic?
It is what is this relationship? What do I want it to be? And being intentional about what is actually a stronger desire that you have.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you want to lead your life with, even though it may feel really uncomfortable because now you're doing things that your inner critic is telling you is wrong or bad or not okay.
Yeah.
And so it's that constant choice of, who am I going to be in these situations where I know my inner critic wants to come in and take over my mind?
Yeah. Yeah. Who do I choose to be? One of the things I want to explore is the relationship between inner critic and magical mindset. So this season, we're talking about our mind and air and our communication, our magical mindset, and that in itself has so many chapters. And one of those is working with this voice that says you can't have it, or you shouldn't have it, or that's never going to happen, which is the voice that is not supporting this magical mindset, which is the universe is limitless, and you actually get to decide what you believe. You get to decide what thoughts you want to bring front and center. And all of these different decisions that we make, whether it's in our healing journey, or whether we're manifesting something in particular that we want, or we just want to feel freaking magical. Magical mindset is a part of it, but there's this relationship between the inner critic and the magical mindset. So for you, Tosca, when you see this relationship between the magic you seek to create in the world, because everybody, so happy to share, Tosca is one of the members of the Big Life Magic Makers, the virtual community. Tosca was one of the first women to actually walk through the open doors. Hello, one of the original gang. So we do a lot of work in, connecting to our intuition, expanding what's possible for ourselves. So in that work, that is our work we do within the Big Life Magic Makers, and your work as the expert who is helping people to unlock this truth. What have you discovered about this connection between magical mindset and inner critics?
I've discovered that it's really hard to be expansive about what's possible. It's really hard to dream your biggest dreams. It's really hard to allow for receiving of what is meant for you and what you are calling in your life if you are getting in your own way with the muckety muck that you are telling yourself day in and day out, and that you've embodied in your cellular level. like this is who I am or this is what I believe, when the truth is not that. Because the truth of what you believe is, for yourself, what's possible, what you believe about the world, about all the things, is buried underneath these messages that
Mhm.
aren't serving you anymore.
Mm. Oh, Tosca, so beautiful. When you were just sharing that, I just saw like the dripping down of the magical mindset and the inner critic and everything that's in our mind, magical mind, dripping down to what's underneath, which is actually that heart center, like where our real values and beliefs are. They're not actually up here.
Yeah.
They're here in our heart, and our heart is our big receiver in the world, and also where we give from, where we create from. Wow, that was a really beautiful image. I hope anyone else here listening or watching got that image as well, of just like the what's underneath it. And what's underneath it here is actually our heart space, which is the seat of our soul.
Yeah, and what, I've said to you before, and I'll say it again, is like this work is the constant passing of the baton from the head to the heart, from the head to the
Yeah.
heart, right? And when they actually are working in unison and they're in balance, it's like the most beautiful way to be in the world. And every time I remember, I got to pass the baton from my head to my heart, is like, that's like the signal to be kinder to myself, to stop trying to control everything, to let go of what I think things will look like, and just trust myself and my inner knowing.
Yeah.
And that is a practice.
Yes, it is. Lifelong practice. Like I do say, the longest journey you will ever take is from your head to your heart. That is the longest journey you'll ever take. And it may take you years. You may have to take it a few times before you even realize it's a journey that you're on. But it's highly recommended, everybody, to, like Tosca says, pass that baton. And it passes back and forward, because I also think our magical mindset, everything involved in our mind and our thinking and our beliefs, they're so juicy and powerful, and they help us create the scaffolding and the strategy around what we want to create in the world, and who we are and where we're going to reach and what we're going to do next. So it's not that the heart has, more power or where we should be more, but it's about that balance and that passing of the baton, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, as you're talking, it makes me think of something you always talk about, right? Which is our resistance, right? Like,
Mhm.
and oftentimes that resistance comes from our mind. And, it can be really hard to open up to things, like to tools that we have to tap into our heart, like meditation, and other modalities like that, because we're giving ourselves stories about what's going to work, what's not going to work, versus what if I just continue to try these new things, insert whatever that is for you, and
Mhm.
not abandon ship after the first or the second try because it didn't, quote unquote, work. That's
Yes.
this work. This work is being committed to experimenting with something new, because the new thing doesn't usually work on the first try. The new thing takes time. It takes time to get out of your monkey mind and to receive something different and new that isn't a logical piece of data. And so, yeah, the resistance, right, that we create is a block to the magic.
Yeah. And I think the resistance is best buddies with the inner critic. The resistance says, hey, inner critic, let's play. We can bully them to not change. We can bully them to stay in this comfort zone where we want them to be. That can happen. And again, conscious or unconscious.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely, resistance is like the rust of all meditation, manifestation, magic, like all of it. It does. It takes some practice, which is why it's called a spiritual practice. You don't sit to meditate and get like bliss and zen the first time. I mean, I'm years in, and I've had a few flashes of it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to ground us in an example of this work?
Yeah,
Let's do that. Let's play there. And I'm going to use myself as the example, which I wasn't expecting until last Thursday when we're in the Magic membership and you, as our special guest master teacher this season, you're doing 2 sessions within the Magic membership. The first one was last week. The next one's tomorrow. Today's Wednesday, the 24th. That's the 25th for anyone following along. And the first one was about like this truth about your inner critic. And so I'm sitting in the Zoom room with the other women who are gathered, and you're sharing about the inner critic like you did at the top of this episode. And one of the things that you shared that I think was the first unlocking for me was, how can we love this inner critic? Because the inner critic is also working towards keeping you safe or protecting you, or has been developed for a reason. And that was, like, I'm all about the love, add more love. I'm all about that. I'd never had a conversation with myself about loving this inner critic. So I was like, okay, here we go, Tosca. There's the first unlock. So before we go further into my story, and just spoiler alert, everyone, I had a major aha in this session, which we're getting to. But just share with us a little bit, Tosca, around this idea of loving the inner critic and
yeah.
Just why?
It just makes me so happy to hear about unlocks and ahas. And so this idea of being on the path of being our own best friend and living our biggest life, part of that is, how do we love all the parts of ourselves? How do we come into acceptance of all the parts of ourselves? And that is no different in considering the inner critics within us. And the more I do this work, especially in conversation with my clients and their inner critics, because we have conversations, it's so clear, not just to me, but to my clients, that, wow, like, actually, I thought this was a mean person. I thought they were out to get me. I thought they didn't want me to win. They wanted me to fail. And they realized it's the absolute opposite. That part of us was developed at a time when we needed to find a way to get the love, the shelter, the food, the belonging, our basic needs met. And in order to do that, it was giving us these messages to keep us safe from whatever, the disappointment, it might be physical safety, all the things. And we just never, that part of us kind of never grew up or developed other tools. It just kind of stayed there and had very limited tools to help you to see what was going to serve you, because it was probably DEFCON 4 at the time. It was like, we're powerful beings. We're there for survival. We're here. We just want to keep surviving, right? And then we have to move. My dog is howling. Like, this is okay. If that's not an indication,
Is the punctuation of it? Go see.
Can you hear it? Can you hear her howl?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
It's just echoing in the background, but it's beautiful. It's giving us kind of like, the Hollywood moment. I love it. Yeah,
and like, well, it's like the sirens going off, right? The sirens going off of like, what is it now that I need? What does that part of me now need? What is it I need to honor to move forward and out of that survival mentality? Because I'm no longer 7 or 10 or even 20, whatever, wherever this started, and then build strength over time. That's why we have to love it, because it was formed for us. It just kind of never got the memo And so we've got to now create our boundary with it and give it the memo that, like, love you, girl, but I got big plans, and I don't
Yeah.
need you to keep me safe anymore. I don't
Yeah.
need you to protect me from disappointment.
Yeah. And love you, evolve with me.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not a part of me to be banished or punished. Like
Right.
that was a big change for me, because I think sometimes when we're working in this work of like, that's how I used to be, before the evolution of me, it's seen as a bad part or a part of ourselves that we have to cut out or delete in order to be whole, in order to be the higher vibration or whatever words you want to put there. Instead of this embracing, it's actually a part of the spiral story of you. It's
Yeah.
all a part of you, and it's service to you, and you get to choose how you play with it. Like you were saying, like, where's that boundary? How are we going to interact or speak to this voice within us that says we can't or that's not allowed? So let's go to the next chapter in my story. So I'm in the middle of a bigger story for myself at the moment, which, spoiler alert, is about the evolution of me, which is partly why we're talking about it, because in the membership, in the podcast, because as a magic maker, I actively do the work that I teach. What channels through me is what I also share with the community, with my one-on-one clients, with everybody connecting to the podcast. And I've been working actually for months on a big activation for myself called Being Her. Being Her, and she is, to me, is the elevated version, the woman who is in the business that I know I want to create, that is within me, is in the magic making that I want, is in the marriage that I want, is, living within the abundant bank balance that I want. Like I've been working across the board with different magic activations for months, and connecting with different people at different points, and it's been an amazing journey, and it definitely got to this place where it feels like, oh wow, I am not working towards being her, I am actually her, which means, oh hello, new layer of what's going to resist now. Like resistance got turned up in volume for me, which I was like, okay, I see your resistance, I see what you're going on there. And, so I'm aware of that. I'm working with that. And then Thursday, we go into the truth about your inner critic, and we're in the session, and you're talking about loving this part, and they're developed, at a certain age in a particular part of our lives to protect us. And I got this like, break open moment, because something I've been working with is this push-pull tug of war that I have around being seen. Like I want to be seen, but do I really want to be seen? What does it mean to be seen? Why isn't this person in my life seeing me the way that I want to be seen? And, and all of that. And it's connected to how big I want Big Life Magic to be, and connected to so many threads of this activation in being her. Allowing myself to be seen. And what I got in that is the middle child of 7, I had to work really hard at being seen. And the thing that makes it the aha is I'm in an amazingly loving family. I'm really close to my siblings. I felt love and care from my parents every step of the way. Like I don't have these conscious stories that stick out that say, this happened then, Deborah, which is why this is how you feel about being seen. It was so deep and unconscious that when it came through and I was like, oh, that's my inner critic saying, you better work harder. You better work harder because they can't see you. They can't see you. Like all of that tension and resistance that I had around being seen, which I initially was placing onto other people, saying to them, why aren't you seeing me? or looking at particular stats or facts within my business. Why am I not being seen despite the fact that I'm working really hard? And then I had this moment of just like, oh, I have a voice that tells me if I want to be seen, I got to work really hard for it. And the next beat was, but I don't want to work hard. I want to allow. I want to do what I teach, which is this magical mindset of like, I'm safe to receive. The universe has my back. My dream that I want can be that and even bigger. So I sat in the Zoom room with you and the other women holding these two places of like, oh, there you are, little Deborah, who worked really hard at being seen and still feels like she needs to, because it's been a running narrative now for, I don't know, I'm 50, so what, 48 years, 47 years, I don't know. And then this other part of me, which is like, I know that that's not true. So Tosca, putting you in the hot seat right now, what's my next move?
Oh, wow. What a beautiful realization.
Mm-hmm.
Always deepening, right? Like it's only
Always.
been, it's not even been a week, right? So it's deepening the awareness of where this shows up, because it's likely also connected to many facets of life, right? It's not just like, I believe I have to work hard for this in this environment, but it probably has other tentacles. So just continuing the awareness. And what question comes up for me is, what would support you in you seeing yourself fully?
Snap, crackle, pop. Because that's also where I got to with the magical mindset. I was like, actually, the essence of this is seeing myself and seeing myself in the vibration that I want to be seen in. Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to say out loud, that's not always an easy thing to do.
Oh, that's the hardest thing to do is to honor who you are, your truth in all your imperfections and all your glowy shiningness, and to say like, I've got it going on, to use your language, right? And to really believe that, and to say like, it is enough when it is enough that you can see yourself fully and clearly and know the truth of you, that is where the magic opens up, because that is what's needed. Because you're not waiting for the stats on the YouTube view. You're not waiting for the emails of the yeses for the community. You are saying, I've got it going on. I know how magical I am. I'm shining my light the brightest it can be. And it doesn't matter what happens. I'm not in control of what happens right now, but I know that I opened the damn portal. And so I'm not worried. I'm at peace because I am doing my thing, and I'm honoring myself in all the ways. And I'm giving myself the self-care, and I'm giving myself the break. And you know what? I'm working hard because I love the work that I'm doing, but I'm doing it for me, and I'm doing it in service. And that is enough.
Oh, deep breath, everybody. Let's take that in. That's known as the Tosca truth. I love that. When you go into that moment when that truth just channels through you. And I want to like value add to that. Because on Sunday, I did an abundance activation. So Sunday, I'm sitting at the beach and I'm calling myself in. I'm like, okay, so Thursday you have this big unlock and you're starting to explore that. And you're right, Tosca, it's got tentacles in all different parts of my life. It's not just about my business. It's about my bank account, my marriage, I could go on and on, but everyone's picking up what I'm putting down. And then the Sunday activation is this invitation to being her. That's what I invited on Sunday. And so I was like, okay, well, check yourself, Deborah. Who are you being today in amongst all of this? Because you're the guide for the women tonight. And so I just allowed myself to put that story to the side for a minute. Just put the story to the side on the sand, and I allowed myself to be in the imagining of it's completely safe to be seen. I'm celebrated when I'm seen. I don't have to work really hard. I just work towards what I really want to work towards, what makes me feel good. And I just played there in my imagining, and I got the next layer of the aha, because my business suddenly came into vision for me much bigger than I had already been dreaming. And here's the beautiful thing in that vision, Tosca. There's different parts of the Big Life Magic vision, the big life magic vision. There's different parts of the vision that I'm not even working on. They're going to be manifest, but it's somebody else's job. I'm going to be employing people to be working on different parts of my business. And so it was this big, deep breath of like, oh, wow, I can have the dream. It's bigger than I thought. And not only do I not have to work as hard as I've been telling myself, I can actually employ other people to work. You know, like give myself more space and grace. It was like never had I connected to my vision and also connected to it doesn't have to be hard. So I just want to say thank you. I mean, what a magical gift for me personally that you've given me just in this last week. I mean, through our whole friendship, through our whole Magic Maker adventure, but just in this last week, like to put down the it's got to be hard, you have to work really hard for it, is like I can feel the difference in my shoulders. Like my hips relax, my solar plexus opens. Like it's such a gift, which is the work that you do, which is like helping people to unlock these narratives, which are messing with their magical mindset and messing with their lives.
Well, I'm so stinking happy for you. I'm trying not to let me just throw more F-bombs, but you know what it makes me think of is early on in your supporting me as friend, as magical guide. I remember a reading that we had where it was like the hard way is over, right? I think I had an image in the back of me, which was like a washboard. I can't believe I remember this. I don't remember all this stuff, but I remember it was like, oh, because that was part of my story too. It has to be hard. It has to be, and I also come back to like, when I'm in that slog of it, like, let me just take a breath, and it doesn't have to be this way. Like, I don't have to be in the forcing, but I say this to say this work is why it's so hard to do on our own.
Yes.
Because you saw it in me, right? And I'm like, and now you see it for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that in these deep things that are so below the surface, they can rise to the surface when somebody else can be a witness as well.
Yeah.
And you obviously unlocked a lot on your own because you were making connections by what was saying, but and when we have mirrors, when we get asked deeper questions, when we go to other tentacles, it becomes even more powerful.
Yeah, granted that, you know, I have years of experience of knowing how do you work with this kind of thing, because I've worked with it with so many other people, and it's just like, oh, it's my turn, you know. And I also agree with you, even somebody like me who knows a lot about transformation and activating magic, I still need those moments where you're holding the circle of women and I can be just in my story. And I think we all not only need it, but I think we deserve these spaces where we can turn up, and it's just about me. It's just about me today and what's going on in my thoughts or my feelings or my magic or my mindset. it's all about me. Like, and from there is when we can really start to work on some unlocking and some evolution, particularly for women. I think there's a lot of, it's about me, but it's me as the mother, it's me as the wife, it's me as the employee, it's me as the business owner. Like, there's a lot of connecting to others, which women naturally do. But I'm more and more, as I've been working with this evolution of you story and the bigger narrative of it, more and more I'm seeing this just importance of allow yourself to be held by another while you unlock something for yourself. And also remember, it's not only fun, but it can be a fast forward button if you allow yourself to be held in a container with either a transformational coach like you are, Tosca, or the one-on-one work that I do, or in the community that we're a part of, like the Big Life Magic Makers, where everyone's there in their own stories, but saying yes to what's possible for me.
Yeah, and I think it was said in a conversation you had on your Instagram Live on Sunday, but I'll just reiterate, which is when we show up in spaces where we get to drop our identities, and it's not about the transaction of what do I need, what do you need, and we're just showing up without any of that as pretense. It's really powerful because then we're just who we are. We're not worrying about anything. And I think that's the community that you've created, is you just show up. Nobody cares what you do. Nobody cares how you got there. It's just, who are you being? And what's your energy? What's your magic, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely got that on Sunday too. That was with a conversation I had with Sonia, one of our other magic members, who last night held the full moon circle for us. So good. Amazing conversation. Amazing sharing. So Tosca, it's clear that the inner critic is there. It's clear that the inner critic is actually not the enemy, but a part of us that we can find a new way to embrace, create new boundaries with, evolve in that narrative with. So now can you just share with people who might be listening or watching and they're thinking, I need a little bit of Tosca truth? Like, what are the ways that they can connect to you?
They can reach out, visit coachtosca.com. I have my contact information there. It's real easy. And for more kind of my nuggets, they can follow the Unlock Lab podcast for hopefully more ahas and unlocks. And one of the things I feel like compelled to share as you're kind of recapping a little bit, right, is we are where we're meant to be always. And so the inner critic, right, that has been developed and has maybe dictated a little bit of our choices, it's all for a reason. And now the reason is, well, what else is possible, right? So I think it's also not about being in judgment or shame of like, oh my gosh, this has been happening all this time. Like, for everybody watching and listening, I don't want that to be the narrative at all. It's like, okay, like now you see it. And also you can look at like, what good did that do in your life? What lessons have you learned? And now you're just at the moment of your life where you're like, and I'm ready for a new chapter, a new story, or whatever. So like, love where you are, love that part of you taught you some things, and now love that you're ready for something new.
Yes. The evolution of you. And love is the leader. You know, I'm loving that. So my friends, if you are interested in connecting with Tosca, I highly recommend listening to the Unlock Lab. I often listen to Tosca while I'm walking the beach in the morning, just to get those little unlock nuggets. Tosca is also a keynote speaker. So if you're listening and you're like, I've got an event coming up and my audience needs to hear some Tosca truth from the stage, I would be reaching out. In the show notes, you're going to see all the ways to connect with Tosca, and I highly encourage it. You can also stay connected with Big Life Magic. You've heard us talk about the virtual community. There's links below for that also. You know, the doors are always open. I welcome you to just walk through and see if being with us is going to help unlock something for you. Because, yeah, we do some magic, but really it's about awesome women connecting and saying, yes, I want a freaking magical life. I'm going to go for it. That's what the community is all about. So I just want to end in the way we end all episodes, Tosca, which is a dedication. And as a guest, you get to dedicate this episode to whatever or whoever you wish before we call this a wrap.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I would love to dedicate this to my mom, who has such strength and power. And just kind of a few weeks here before Mother's Day, just want to honor her and all she's done to support me in my journey.
I love that. Everybody take a moment to breathe in and share a dedication to either your mother or somebody who has been a mother figure for you. Or maybe for some, it's Mother Mary or an angel that you pray to. We all need a mother. It's where we all came from. What a beautiful dedication. Thank you, Tosca.
Thank you for the chance.
Yeah. My friends, woo, what an episode. Unlock. If something has unlocked, make sure you let Tosca and I know, because we love following the stories. And next week, I'm going to be back. It's just me. It's going to be me in a solo episode, and I am talking more about this magical mindset. So in episode 1, I spoke about the resistance. Today, Tosca and I have been talking about this inner critic. And next week, I'm going to talk more about what do we need to know about what's actually happening in our mind before we turn it into the direction, get the navigation towards magical mindset. So we're going to unlock some more, unravel some more, be up in the mind a little bit more before we step into that new story for us all, which is what I hope for you. So my friends, take a big deep breath in now and smile. And know it to be true, because it is, that it's you, my friend. You are the magic.